What's up, Life Warrior? Welcome back to your Monday message. I am Dharma Shakti, your host, with your weekly dose of something inspirational. Happy Monday. Thank you for clicking on this video and having a watch. Okay, let's unpack courage. I know that courage is a topic that comes up a lot when I'm working with my coaching clients, when I'm working with my teacher trainers, when I am just talking to students after class. And courage feels like this elusive thing for a lot of people because we don't feel courage. What we feel is a call to do something, and then we feel the fear that we have around doing that thing, around stepping out into the possibility of that thing, or leaning into the dream, leaning into the goal, leaning into what our heart is calling us to do. So the word courage actually has its roots in Latin, and it means to come from the heart. So if you just think about that for a moment, this idea of courage really does require that we are coming from our heart space. And usually this is why we end up feeling fear, because our heart will have this calling to do something, and then our mind will give us all this rationale and all this logic and all the reasons and why that's a crazy idea, or why we're going to make a fool of ourselves, or why that's scary and we shouldn't do that. Our heart is what really calls us to step out of our comfort zone. And so this leads me to my first quote for this video. You can either choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you can't choose both. When your heart calls you to do something, whether it's something exciting, it's a big dream that you want to do, or maybe it is a place of integrity that you know you need to step into based on your value system, right? Your heart just calls you to say, hey, you got to show up here. And that showing up could be something, again, really exciting. It could be a big dream that you have. That something could also just be like, you know that you need to speak up and use your voice here. Your heart will call you to do things, and it takes a lot of courage. And I'm specifying because we often just think like courage around achieving our goals and dreams. And sometimes courage is required when we have to set boundaries. Courage is required when we have to like draw a line and say no more. Courage is required when we decide it's time to walk away from something. So courage is required in places where we have to make change in our life. And courage is also required when we want to achieve our aspirations, which I guess is also making change in our life. But you know what I mean? There's moments in our life where they're not like the pretty aspirational things like, yeah, I want to go do that. It's like, I know I need to do this over here, and it's not going to feel comfortable. Chasing our dreams is exciting until all the fear hits, and then we're like, this is really uncomfortable. And so either end of the spectrum, you have to be able to access courage. And again, courage really does come from the heart. Courage is allowing yourself to lean into the thing that really is igniting your fear. Courage is leaning into the thing that brings up resistance. Courage is really having the heart to move through the things that are uncomfortable. Whether that uncomfortable thing is, a goal that we're chasing, and we gotta like shift up our day-to-day and the choices that we're making around our habits and our patterns and our routines. We gotta step into a new part of who we are that we haven't accessed yet. And courage, listening to our heart, is also required in like protecting ourselves and having boundaries and knowing when to say no, and knowing when we've taken too much on, and we can say, hey, I can't do this anymore. So courage does require vulnerability. I feel like they really go hand in hand, right? When you are going to access your courage, most likely you're stepping into a situation that feels really vulnerable. And vulnerability is just kind of like we're letting ourselves be exposed. We're letting ourselves really be seen. It means really owning our truth as we allow it to be portrayed out there into the world. Vulnerability is being real with what we feel in front of everybody else, whoever everybody else is for you in that moment, right? It may be just being real and authentic in front of a loved one. It may be being real and authentic on social media as you're putting your business out there, right? So vulnerability is just basically allowing yourself to be exposed, stepping into your truth in front of everybody else. And that takes so much courage. And so how could I talk about courage without talking about Brené Brown? Well, I'm not going to talk about Brené Brown, but we're going to use her words. If you don't know Brené Brown, please do check her work out. She is amazing. So she says that vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control of the outcome. Courage is when we just follow our hearts, even though we don't know what the outcome is going to be and we really don't have control over the outcome. And that does require vulnerability because we're allowing ourselves to be seen in the process. And so I want you to really think about your life and where could you use some more courage? Where could you be more courageous? Right? And if you were more courageous, how would your life look different? And just think about that for a moment. Right? If I was courageous enough to actually communicate my boundaries, I might feel like I was protecting my peace a little bit more, and I'd feel more peaceful in my life. If I had the courage to say yes to my dreams and just go for it, I might actually be living into my dreams. Where does your life need more courage from you? And what would your life look like if you could actually just produce 3 times more courage than what you have right now? Okay, so on that note, right, courage, another beautiful quote here by John Richter. He says, courage consists not in blindly overlooking danger, but in seeing it and conquering it. And, I just want to specify here, conquering it doesn't mean that we fully have success. To me, conquering it, the fear, means we lean into it, no matter what the outcome is. We lean into it, we give it a try, we give it a go, and we show up. As Brené Brown says, we're just willing to show up. So real courage, as Timothy Dalton says, real courage is knowing what faces you and choosing to face it. So courage is the antidote to fear. And I know this is kind of a conundrum. It's well, how do I cultivate the courage when the fear is just taking over me? It boils down to this. Just have the willingness to show up and see what happens. Just have the willingness to show up as openly as you can. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be perfectly open and that you're going to be perfectly graceful or that you're going to be perfectly composed, but that you're willing to show up and do the best you can. That you're willing to just show up and give it the best that you got. You know what's in front of you. You know it's going to be difficult. You know it's going to be challenging. You know it's going to be vulnerable, but you lean into it anyways. And courage is so much like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets. And then that's why so many people out there in the world think, oh my God, that person must not feel any fear. They're so courageous. And I can guarantee you, the people that we think are courageous are also feeling the vulnerability. They're feeling the fear. Just they're managing it differently. They're managing it in a way where they feel it and they go anyways because they're following their heart. I have a really good friend who often calls me the fearless leader. And my heart loves what he is trying to say, but I don't necessarily like that title or that name because I don't want people to think that to lead or to chase your dreams or to build something and grow a business or to put yourself out there and take risks in your life means that you're fearless. I don't like that title because I think it's false advertisement. I'm not fearless. I feel fear all the time. Even making this video, this is like my 6th take on this video. That's why I was laughing as I was coming into this video with you all. Even to talk about courage is oh, how do I do this? Because it's not an easy topic. We all understand this word logically, courage, but what can I tell you? What can I say to you to follow your heart, to listen to your heart? other than it's worth it. It's so worth it when you listen to your heart. Is it scary? Is it terrifying? Absolutely. Do you always get the results that you're hoping for? No. But I can tell you that as you exercise this muscle of courage, the more you're able to lean into things and the more you're able to achieve things. The more you exercise this muscle of courage, the stronger you get. So the more you can withstand those moments of vulnerability and not buckle in those moments, but to stand firm and continue forward. Don't worry about where you end up. Just continue forward. Just continue forward, because you're going to end up somewhere that isn't the same place that you were. But you have to have the courage to keep going. You have to have the courage to lean in. You have to have the courage to be vulnerable. And it does take a lot of willingness. Being brave and being courageous, it just simply takes willingness. And it does require you to override that part of your nervous system that is saying, this is not safe, don't do this. Now, I don't mean like a dangerous situation. When it comes to living into the future you that you want to be, when it comes to stepping into new talents and new skills that you want to grow, when it comes to putting yourself out there in front of the world so that you can really offer your skill and your talent and your service, when it comes to chasing those dreams and those aspirations and really living into them, we have to learn to override that part of our mind that says, this is too uncomfortable. This is too scary. You don't know what's going to happen. In fact, most likely it's not going to be good. That inner dialogue that starts going, the willingness to hear that and say, I hear you, and I'm going to do it anyways. I hear you, rational brain. I hear you, inner critic. I hear you, inner voice. I hear you, Gary. And hearing it and saying, I hear you, but my heart's calling, is such a strong pull. And I have so much willingness. I'm going to lean into it anyways, and I'm just going to see what happens. Courage really is coming from the heart and not from the mind. Your mind wants to give you a lot of logic, a lot of reason, a lot of rational thoughts. It wants to it wants you to analyze it and think it through. And the heart is asking you to just heed the call, to just lean into it and just trust the process. So courage is about living life from the heart, living from that place of willingness, and living from that place of saying yes, even when we are completely uncertain. Saying, yes, I'll give this a try. Yes, I'll give this a go. I don't know where it's going to take me, but I know it's taking me somewhere, and that somewhere is not where I am now. If you want to grow out of the place that you are right now, you have to be willing to step into those things that draw up the fear in you. And again, it's not about not having the fear. Courage is feeling all the things that come up with the fear, hearing all of the inner critic and the inner dialogue, feeling it all, hearing it all, and being vulnerable enough to say, I'm terrified, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm here and I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to give it a try. I'm uncomfortable, but I'm willing to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And my friends, when you do that, your life begins to unfold in such a magical way, in a way that you can't even begin to imagine. So courage is such an amazing, amazing skill to have, and it is a skill that you can build. This ability to just be willing, right? To have that willingness. It is learning to override that part of you that says, nah, I'd rather be comfortable. And say, you know what, let's do this anyways. Let's just do it. Let's lean into it. Let's say yes, even though there's a part of us that says no. Let's say yes, because there's something on the other side that's worth chasing. And it isn't necessarily about getting that exact something, but it's about getting to the other side, getting to that other place, getting to that new perspective or that new position or that new experience or that new level of you. And you deserve to explore that uncertain terrain. You deserve to explore that future you. You deserve to explore what's out there and waiting for you to just say yes and step into it. If you could just simply start dialing down the intensity of your fear. So just take a moment tonight or tomorrow or throughout your week and just ask yourself, start small. You don't have to start big and take giant leaps just because you heard Dharma give a talk on courage. Maybe this is the sign that you are waiting for to like step out into that courageous thing that you want to do. Go for it, okay? But what I do advise is that you find those little places, those little areas where you're like, oh, I know I could just lean into it with a little more courage there. I know I could have showed up with a little more willingness over there. Find the opportunities to flex that courage muscle. I don't know why I was like flexing my body, but flex that courage muscle, flex that big heart of yours that just says, yes, I am willing. I am willing to give it a try and just see what happens without being attached to the outcome, without having expectations to the outcome, but just having that willingness to go through the thing that you're going through. Lean into it. And I guarantee you, there's magic there. There are gifts for you waiting for you to experience them. So think about those areas where you can lean in with a little more courage and just think what your life would be like if you had 3 times more courage than what you had right now. 3 times, just 3 times more courage. If you could 3x your courage, what would you chase after? What would you lean into? What would you invest in? What would you start doing or stop doing? And then I want you to think about, what could you do to practice courage? Where in your life does it feel safe enough that you can start practicing being a little more courageous? Is it saying yes to that invitation that you got? Is it speaking up in the conversation where you feel like there's something that needs to be said? Is it by saying, you know what, I'm going to set this goal and I'm going to let other people know that I set this goal? Is it putting your idea out there into the world and telling people that you have this idea that you're going to now pursue? Where can you find little places to practice exercising courage? And if you do it in the little places, you'll be surprised how quickly you're able to do it in the big places. Again, please remember, courage is coming from the heart, listening to the heart, right? Listening to the call of the heart, and just having the willingness to trust that wisdom and lean into it. All right, my friends, I hope that you found this video insightful and informative and inspiring, and that you feel like being courageous this week. I know that this week can be challenging for a lot of people. It's the holiday season, and so maybe courage is exactly what you need this week. So I hope that you find places to flex that muscle and practice being courageous, because you deserve the life that lives on the other side of you being courageous. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can be notified the next time I drop a video here, which is every Monday. And if you like to just geek out on these things like I do, if you're really interested in developing yourself as a person and growing, or you're just feeling stuck and you need something to like get you out of your stuckness, please do check out the link that is down in my description below here for my weekly group coaching called The Empowered Way. This is a weekly program where we are discussing many different topics. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about courage, actually, so we will expand on this conversation. But check that out if you're interested. It's a monthly membership, and the whole idea of the program is to just help you live a more empowered life and feel more empowered as you live your life. All right, I'll be back next Monday. Thank you for watching this video. Please share it with a friend if you think they need to hear something inspiring, and happy holidays. Enjoy. I'll see you next time. From my heart to yours, namaste.